Welcome to Deep Look, Ultiworld's weekly podcast about the latest in the Ultimate World. Keith Rayner, Charlie Eisenhood with you live on YouTube every single week, Tuesdays, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Keith, what's happening? I woke up at 4 a.m. today, jet lagged from Amsterdam. Hopefully you got better sleep than me.
I did. Though not by much. I've had some like back pain crop up over the past 4 or 5 days. But I'm dipping into the Sunset Lake CBD muscle rub actually, which is helping. This is not an advertisement. This is pure facts. I have trouble. have trouble reaching that spot on my back, so my wife has to come and rub it in. But getting some of the CBD lidocaine on my back is helping out.
Nice. So I'm back from Amsterdam, 5 days over in the Netherlands for Windmill. And Keith, we got a lot to break down. I mean, it was certainly an exciting tournament, a lot of high level play. Let's just go through it really quickly. Jinx Midnight wins in the women's division in an absolute thriller, 15-14 over Kroot. And then in the open game, the USA team jumped out to a 6-0 lead on Clapham, and they rolled through to a comfortable win. And then in mixed, the super team got the job done. They just looked dominant the whole weekend. Some really tremendous play from Joe White, Valeria Cardenas in particular, but really just top to bottom, like very clearly the most talented team there. Team France tried their best, but could not come up with a win in the end. But that French team is definitely going to be one you want to keep an eye on at the World Championships, Keith.
Definitely, and I think we had kind of high expectations for that French team, but I think they were a little outclassed going up against the super team. But that super team, if they showed up to Worlds, might be the favorite to win. So there's no shame in given a game in which they had some chances to kind of break back into it, but couldn't really capitalize on those, and ultimately just a bit outmatched.
Joe White is playing out of his mind. I mean, that guy. It's a bummer we're not going to see him playing in Australia, because I think he's maybe at the point where I think he's the best player in the world right now on the men's side. He just looked completely unstoppable playing for super team. And I heard a rumor that he's just focusing on getting ready to be on the World Games team next year, and that's why he's skipping this world cycle. I feel like I don't want to say he's a lock, because I don't think anybody's quite a lock for the World Games team, but man, Keith, he is playing amazing Ultimate right now.
That may be true over the entire tournament. I didn't come away from the final feeling like he was absolutely dominant. In fact, he seemed like he was kind of mailing it in a little bit. But at that point, right? Yeah, they're on vacation. He's having a good time.
Oh yeah,
and the fact that he can play at that high level while still, taking a chill pill is, I think, speaks highly of his ceiling.
So, what do you want to talk about from Windmill? I was there, so I'm curious for what you have questions about or where you want to start. I mean, the women's game was by far the best game early of the whole weekend.
Definitely.
The women's final was just tremendous. I mean, that's going to be one of the best games of the year across all of Club Ultimate, I think.
Yeah, really a roller coaster ride. If you hadn't had a chance to check it out, I mean, even if you just watch the last few points, I think you're going to be in for a thrill, because it feels like one team's going to win, then all of a sudden the momentum goes the other way, and then there's an error in the short field and a break, and then there's a huge layout block, and it was a real back and forth matchup. Is a lot of fun to watch. But the first thing I want to know about really is about the vibe. I mean, what was the vibe? I mean, we knew that this was supposed to be one of the greatest tournament environments that you could find, the blend of competition and party. Do you feel like it lived up to the hype?
I do. I think the challenge, honestly, is maybe that it's feeling like it's not that much of a party tournament anymore, because the level of play is so intense and high. Like even the super team, which is a literal made up all-star team that has no, and like winning doesn't mean anything. Like they were playing really hard. I was surprised watching them in semifinals of like how focused they were on winning by the largest margin possible. Like compare that to party tournaments in the US, you're really not getting that same energy. People are like wearing tutus and stuff. This is not that. Like Windmill, like this is a high level tournament. Now are there like the bottom half of each division like has nonsense pickup party teams? Yeah. Yes. But the like top end of this tournament is extremely competitive. But I mean, this is definitely the most elaborate setup for an ultimate tournament that I have seen. Like they have this gigantic tent that houses not only like an entire HQ area and kitchen, but also the full dance floor space with like a full bar and a stage and professional audio for sound. And then you have a giant outdoor space that has sauna, hot tub, karaoke zone, rock climbing zone, fire pit, French fries and other fried food stand, beer stand, DJ in a like container up above everybody. They have like people playing music in the morning, like doing singer-songwriter stuff. I mean, it was very elaborate. I was impressed. I think it's hard for me to tell how hard people partied. There was definitely a big party on Saturday night. Was the whole tournament there? Don't think so. I think some people like call it early and get ready to play their games on Sunday. But the silent disco thing was really fun. I had never done that, and I expected it to not be as fun as it was. So very enjoyable. Definitely a kind of like a tournament all its own. I've been to Paganello. I've been to most of the big party tournaments in the U.S. save Potlatch. This is definitely like a level of organization that is like a big step above everything else. I mean, they feed you all 3 meals every day, the whole tournament.
And to me that, I haven't played in any of these European tournaments. I haven't attended them. But the impression that I get is that they take the partying seriously, and American partying is a little more flash, like, oh, it's a party tournament because we're wearing costumes, as opposed to like, no, we are professionally partying. And I think that's more of the culture of many competitive European tournaments. So they're good at balancing bringing the real party and then turning around and competing. To me, I still think it's like a little like, well, if you're choosing behaviors that literally are going to decrease the quality of your performance the next day. So, like that's your choice. That's what you go to this tournament for. But, you go to nationals to play at nationals. I bet the tournament party at nationals might be a little more chill. I don't know. Or Euros in this case. But that's what I expected to hear, is that the party was serious. Like we were serious about partying, and the competition was serious. So, I mean, the mission, I guess, of the Tokai super team was to go out there and prove, hey, a pickup team could still win this tournament. I didn't know that was in question.
I had no questions about that.
Didn't think you could do that. But maybe they answered a question nobody was asking, but they did resoundingly answer it. Yes, the Tokai super team could go out and win this tournament, and hopefully they held their own at the party. I haven't heard any reports, but I want to know, did the Tokai super team get out there and take over the dance floor at some point? You got the expectations for your team are higher than just playing well when you're on a super team, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think people partied for sure. I actually don't know that I saw super team people at the party, but that's not to say that they weren't there. To be clear, there was like enough people. It was not, you couldn't see if everybody was there. I mean, there's 80 teams at this tournament.
Yeah.
Anyway, Max Charles asked, does the super team form their own independent country and win worlds? I think they would definitely be competitive with the U.S. team to win. Yeah.
Do they not form their own? Is Tokai not a country now? I thought
Tokai super team is. I heard. Yeah, it's Tokai. Like they carved out a little spot in France, and they've got their own.
What was the made up? Did we make up a country for beach worlds or something? What was that?
Oh, there's been a made up country for years. Courier Island.
Yes, Courier Island. Yes, there we go.
Yeah, I don't know if that's still a thing at Worlds. But for a long time, that was like the pickup team.
So
Tokai Super Team is Courier Island, and they win the whole tournament.
Yes.
It would be so dumb to have that happen at Worlds. Like, you can't allow that, obviously.
No,
it's totally
embarrassing
fine for a
for all of
party
us.
tournament. Yeah. Okay, so we have to watch this clip. Aurora Leshnik for Hrut, the women's team, got a layout D that is it's popping off on Instagram right now. You can check it out on the Ultiworld Insta. We're gonna play it for you right now. And that was an amazing final, Keith. I mean, goes to Universe, and both teams had their moments. And take a look at this play, Keith. Oh my god!
You can't see the scoreboard. This is game on the line. This is the clutch.
Saves the game.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it looked like to me that Hrut was going to lose this game. I mean, they had like a goal line throwaway to give up to give up a break, and then they come out. They have to break to win on Universe, and they proved they could do it. I mean, they then turned around and gave it up to Jinx because they were in a situation like they gave up like a short field turn where they like overthrew a floaty pass. It was windy.
Yeah,
it was a windy final.
A couple painful mistakes for Hrut down the stretch.
Yeah, and then it was just Livka and Anna Gerner just kind of like maintaining possession in the short field until something opened up. And Livka's just so dynamic with the disc in her hand. Her fakes just absolutely eating up defenders, especially under the pressure of like, oh, I really don't want to get broken on Universe.
If you had
she made a big difference.
If you had a pan-European team play against the U.S. in the women's division at Worlds, I think it's a close game. That's how good the top level play in Europe is right now. I mean,
I think the Europeans might win.
They might.
They might be the favorites.
They might. You just mentioned both Gerner and Levka, fantastic this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, Gerner with 3 goals and 3 assists in the final. Floor Kalertz from Hrut was awesome, just absolutely awesome. I think we need to start thinking about her as one of the best female matching players in the world. Like I think,
I agree completely.
I think that it's like I think she gets perhaps overlooked playing in mixed competition, and so Hrut doesn't quite get some. I think the prime spotlight that some of the players in the women's division do. But like, I think when you're starting to think about the 10 best players in the world, and you're talking about, Valeria and Manu and Livka and Claire Trope, like you do not need to get very far down the list before you're starting to look at Flor Kalertz's name, because she was
5 goals,
a beast,
2 assists, 2 blocks, and only 1 turnover. And Leshnik, who had the big layout D, 6 assists, a goal, a block, and only 2 turns. I mean, both teams were driven by their stars. Nikki Prien was very good for Jinx Midnight. I thought Marlene Mueller was also quite good. Sarah Melvin, but I mean, these two teams had many of the best players in like female matching players in Europe on their rosters, and so hence we got an awesome game.
Yeah, I mean, it made sense. I mean, we've been talking about how good the women's division teams in Germany are, and so to get a chance to see Jinx, and for those who don't know, you could play in both the mixed division and a single gender division at this tournament if you're willing to run it out. So Livka pops over from Tokai Super Team
on both divisions.
Yeah,
it's believed that's the first time anybody's won both divisions of Windmill. I have no way of confirming that.
Wow, that seems so, but I guess I don't know how long this opportunity has presented itself.
Benji points out in the chat that the Eurostars almost swept on their last tour in the U.S. That was a few years ago now, of course, but and they're playing club teams, not a national team, but it's a good point. Like, if anything, the competition level in Europe has gotten a lot higher even since then. So I would definitely like the Europeans' chances to compete with the U.S.
Yeah, I think that based what we've seen between the World Games and other international competition, like the best that Europe has to offer is as good as the best in the US, and the difference is about the depth right now.
All All right, so let's talk about what, winning Windmill doesn't really mean all that much, but this was a chance for us to see a pretty high number of national teams from around the divisions. Let's start with USA Open. They go undefeated. What did you think of what you saw from them, Keith, and whether they're going to actually have any competition at Worlds? Because they played Mooncatchers and beat the hell out of them. And I know Mooncatchers doesn't equal Belgian Open, but it's not that far off. They played Clapham and went up 6-0 on them in the final. I know Clapham isn't GB Open, but it's not that far off. Is this U.S. team just going to mop everybody in Australia?
There's definitely a chance of that, and I think when you want to look for the evidence, what do we say about these U.S. teams when they go to these big tournaments? They have less practice time than everybody else, and they also know that they're super talented, so they're going to be able to take their time to build up because their talent's going to carry them through a lot of the beginning of the rounds. They don't have to worry about, we're gonna flub it in pool play or whatever if we're focused on development. And so by the time that they get to semis and finals, they're a lot better in most cases than they are in the beginning. And that bore out here. I mean, they played Clapham during the Swiss draw portion of the tournament.
Game.
And it was a close game. Yeah. I mean, they looked like they definitely could have lost that game. And then by the end, when they get to the final, it's a totally different environment. Now, the conditions were a little different too, but I think that you just saw a different level coming out from the U.S. team by the time that they came around. And, to see that playing out early gives you a lot of confidence that they're going to be right by the time that Worlds comes around. I think you'll probably see a little better showing from some of the other national teams that they'll have to face. It'll be a little more taxing of a tournament along the way. But they were playing most of the best teams pretty much round in and round out and dominated. So
hence, that's what happens in Swiss.
Right. So, I mean, the U.S. team clearly the class of the tournament by a long shot, especially by the end.
Here's my thoughts.
You got to be big favorites, I think.
Yeah. Here's my thoughts. I think the O-line is okay. It's not super elite yet. Obviously, they have great players. They had plenty of fine, clean holds. They also coughed it up a decent amount. The defense is truly out of this world. I mean, nasty defense, which is not surprising based on the composition of the roster and kind of what I expected to see from, they did not go let's pick all the best, most well-rounded players. They're like, no, let's pick the nastiest defenders in the United States and put them onto two lines together and then just let it work out. Like Cam Werner was just absolutely balling out there. I don't know how teams are going to score on this U.S. side. It's just suffocating out there. They're communicating, they're switching. Obviously, many of them are going to be able to just straight up put clamps on their matchups one-on-one. But even against the best players who can't be stopped one-on-one, they're going to have answers for all that. I think the defense carries them. The U.S. team might give up 2 or 3 breaks in a game and still win by 4.
Definitely, and you always have to decide. When you're deciding, okay, is the defense going to be kind of the front foot of our team? That the risk that you run into is that you hit a team with a crisp possession-oriented offense. If you run into a unit like that and you just can't, because good offense is going to beat good defense. So if you can go out there and possess the disc, even against the best defenders, and the other team's offense is a little shaky, all it takes is 1 or 2 mistakes for the game to go your way. But I think that the U.S. is going to feel comfortable saying, all right, someone's going to have to come out and pitch a perfect game against us to beat us.
Oh yeah.
Because our defense is deep, and we're going to be able to run teams into the ground. I don't know if we're ever going to see them achieve kind of perfect offensive orientation going into this tournament based on the personnel, but you're right. This is going to be a team that is going to be sinking their teeth into the other opposing offenses.
What did you think of the teams that we saw elsewhere, mostly the European sides across the various divisions?
Well, I mean, you got to look at this Clapham team and be really impressed with what they did. I know that the final, it didn't turn out how they would have liked, or
it would have been a different story if they stabilized before 6-0. Mm-hmm. They played a lot closer to even after that. The final score is 15-7, and it looked more even.
But you look back at their matchup in Swiss draw, and That was very impressive. I mean, they were playing at a really high level, getting a lot out of Connor McHale. I know a lot of people were very impressed and thinking about him as potentially one of the best male matching players in the world. Conrad Wilson was strong for them. I mean, they look like a really competitive unit. I don't know, how well that carries over into the rest of the international environment, but you can see why they're the class of the European scene.
I think GB Open for me, after this weekend, I am definitely upgrading them to clear medal contenders, possibly the second best team at the tournament. I'm looking around and I'm like, who's gonna play better than them? Like, do you like the Australian men's team that much? The Canadian team has no chance to seriously compete with the U.S. The Mooncatcher's performance this weekend doesn't make me feel great about Belgium. And it wasn't Team Belgium, right? Like, Team Belgium is a lot deeper. They're going to have better defensive lines. I think GB for me is a good. I feel like I was sleeping on them big time. I think that they have a chance to be very, very good.
Yeah, and but I do think that it does feel like after this weekend that Belgium and Canada are a step behind the U.S. Maybe more so than I had initially predicted.
Yeah. And then how about on the mixed side? Like, Team France makes it to the final. They played a tighter game against Super Team earlier in the tournament. Do you think that they have what it takes to medal? Let's say that. Maybe not beat the U.S., but medal.
Yeah, I definitely think they have what it takes to medal. I mean, the talent is definitely there. Their women matching players are super athletic. Their offense feels a little focused, over focused and overweighted onto a couple different players, SBS and Guy Alonso. But I actually thought they did better when they opened up the offensive contributions in the second half of the final. I thought that helped. So maybe that's an adjustment that we'll see them make. But I definitely think that they have the goods to medal. That's not really a question for me at this point.
I was blown away that Nasser and Vogel could still ball out at this level. Right?
Timeless. It's timeless.
Are you serious, dude? He's like the center handler out there. It was crazy. Yeah, I mean, I like the talent. I don't think they're going to be able to beat the U.S. It's just the U.S. just too good, too deep. But I think a silver medal for France at Worlds would be a great performance. They've got to get through some other really tough teams. Like, how about Italy? Like, they lose to France in semis, but I'm sorry. Italy played Super Team, and it was a pretty close game. I think Italy's got the chance to be a really good side. They need to clean up some of the offense, but they certainly have the talent pool to be highly competitive.
I agree, and I was, of course, very excited about this Italy team and finally pushing the chips in on mixed. And I haven't sold on that per se, but I was a little disappointed to see that I thought France was the better side between the two. Maybe some of that's gelling, needing to take time to like learn the mixed game a little bit better, playing together. So it's certainly not a lock that France is going to outperform Italy at Worlds, but I do think that this weekend France looked stronger, and that was a little disappointing for me with my expectations for Italy.
AKS JDF says in the chat that Team France equals silver favorites. Hard to disagree with that, because I'm looking around. Like, Australia didn't look very good this weekend, the mixed team. I don't know what we're going to see from Japan. I feel like the French side is definitely going to be better than Canada, and they look like the best team in Europe right now. So I guess where else do you go for who else would beat them out for silver?
Yeah, Japan, I think will for most of our U.S. folks are going to be a bit of a black box. I think people are going to have a great understanding of where Japan's going to be at, and so you never want to.
They're also going to have their best players on their single gender teams.
Exactly. So,
yeah. Let's see. Anything else? I mean, we could continue talking about some of the European national teams, but I think we touched on the heaviest hitters. Definitely like Italy's chances to medal. They could get silver too. I think that they could ultimately win in the end. They've got the horses. So yeah, I'm thinking about what else. Germany mixed looked okay.
Yeah, that didn't like stand out in a marked way for me, but again, like we said with Japan, a lot of their top players are playing with Jinx Midnight, or a lot of top players from Germany are playing with Jinx Midnight or the German Open team. So I'm not super surprised by that, even though I do think that German Ultimate has really been on the rise.
Any thoughts on the Canadian men's team?
I want to. We have been bashing Canada a lot, and it's probably undue. They are still good. It's just that the bar has been so high when you've been one of the best, 3 ultimate countries in the world for a long time. So I think that they still seem like they're trying to figure out exactly who's going to take the steering wheel for them. I don't know exactly who I expect that player to be either, but it feels like something they're going to need to figure out. Is like, okay, who's driving the bus right now?
Yeah. Unfortunately, the game that they played against the U.S. was supposed to be streamed, but wasn't streamed due to basically miscommunication. Ulti TV was supposed to stream the game. It didn't happen. It wasn't very close. The game was actually over my shoulder. I was producing the game on the showcase field, and behind us was the U.S.-Canadian game. It was a grindy game. There were quite a few turnovers. I think the final score was like 8-4, something like that. They're not going to beat the U.S., but they could definitely medal. They could definitely medal.
Yeah, it's great to see Mark Lloyd back out there, right?
Love it.
We did get them on stream in their draw against Mooncatchers, which is I think a good sign for them. Like that's what I mean by saying that they're still a good team. Like this is still a team that's going to contend for a medal spot. And they've got an interesting mix of the old guys with the likes of Mark Lloyd and names that you've come to know. Kevin Underhill's not really, I would say, old, but guys you've come to know. And then, the younger guys, your Oscar Stonehouse, your Wilkie Lewis. But again, I still struggle to figure out like who takes over games for them. I don't know if that should be a vet like Underhill or Lloyd, or if they want to turn to, a Luke Camire or Quinn Snyder. Who their most dependable guy is going to be? Who are we isolating and looking to attack with? Because I feel a little lost on that.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go to our trivia question of the week right now. Hit the music.
All right, this week's trivia question of the week. We're talking national teams, Charlie, and WUC, formerly WUGC. I believe the Guts still exists. It's just no longer in the title.
The Guts still exists. Do not let it be lost.
Lost
in this
the marquee
world.
billing.
Albuquerque Guts crew carrying the U.S. to the championship 8 years ago. I wonder if we'll see them again. I have no idea, but I hope I see those guys out there.
So the furthest back that I could go, Charlie, with any ease was 2008 WGC. How many countries across all divisions, or which countries I should say, across all divisions, have defeated the U.S. at this tournament? We'll see if you can get them.
Since 2008. Okay.
Yeah.
Japan.
That is one.
I think they beat the women's. It was Fury, basically. It was the U.S. women's team. I think that was 2008 when the Japanese women won the tournament, right?
That is right.
Okay. I know for a fact that none of the U.S. teams lost a game 8 years ago. They swept. So that's done.
That's the last time they had this tournament, 2016.
We go back to 2012. 2012. Who else would have even had a chance besides Japan? I know that there was like a Sweden win, but I think that was in like 2000 or something. I'm going to say just Japan. I think that's my answer.
Okay, interesting. Well, so the US, like you mentioned, undefeated in 2016, and the mixed division team also took some losses in 2012, as did, as you mentioned, the women's division team where Japan won in Japan. The mixed team actually finished 4th that year, but there is one other country that has beaten the US, and it is those pesky neighbors to the north. Canada is the only other country to have beaten the US at WUGC. Just Canada and Japan. Will we see that change this year? Don't know, but that's since 2008. There's the only teams.
I think,
and honestly, that may be all time. Like
viable countries that could beat the US this year. Colombia, possibly France. Canada women, maybe if I squint. France, maybe Italy mixed.
I think I'll extend. I think I'll go to Italy.
I think I'm a no on all Australian teams. I think I'm a no on all Japanese teams.
What about Germany?
I was going to say Belgium, but I think I'm out on.
And Belgium men's. Yeah. I mean, that's still, considering that 2 countries have beaten the US ever. I mean, this is a pretty big list, all things considered.
It is. It is. Did Canada ever win a WGC in that stretch, or they just beat the US in like pool play or something?
Did Canada win? I'd have to go look that up. I do think they have won. Maybe not since 2008, I don't think, but although 2008 was in Canada. So actually, yeah, they won the men's division in the open division in 2008, I think, if memory serves, in Canada. But
okay. That's back when we let teams off the hook by sending a club team instead of a national team.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. So that is your trivia question of the week. Wow. Just 2 countries, Canada and Japan. I bet over under 1/2 new countries beating the US this year in any game. I'll take the over.
I'll take the under. I think it's going to be 1.
Okay. You think it's going to be 1 new team? Well, then you should take the over.
Yeah, 1 new team.
0.5.
No, you didn't. You said over under 1.5.
I said, did I? I meant 1/2. I meant 1/2, as in 1 divided.
You meant a half,
not 1.5.
Okay, yeah, then I'll take the over.
Okay, we both take the over. Interesting. All right, time to take a quick break. On the other side, we're talking college nationals fantasy. We've got college awards talk, and we got a preview the PUL Championship weekend. It's right around the corner.
Hey, this is Robin Fennig. One of the only things that we have to bring to an ultimate tournament are our cleats. And every player has a cleat story, right? Mine took place in 2022 when Noyes slayed our regional rival Dragon Thrust on Universe Point in a rainy semifinal at the USA Ultimate Club Championships. In my toe case, I didn't have to change a single thing about how I cut to get open for resets. I was so lost in the moment that I didn't even know it was Universe Point when I threw the game-winning huck to Dylan DeClerc. Toe cleats are specifically designed for Ultimate, with a cleat pattern for the game's sharp cuts and a durable, breathable, supportive build to keep your feet and ankles protected and comfortable for longer. That's why I've been using them for over 6 years. They're my best ally in the field. You put your best self on the field, so make sure you're bringing the best with you at tokeultimate.com. That's TOKAY-ultimate.com. Toke, sky the limits.
Heads up, Breakmark now has sublimated 5-panel hat. You can get the hat and their famous reversible free with the purchase of one of their 3-piece team bundles, starting at just $85. Get all the details at breakmark.com.
What up? We're back. Deep Look rolls on. And we're going to get to the PUL Championship weekend preview in just a moment. But first, we got to break down some of the stuff from the college nationals. Keith, you've run the numbers on hashtag the game and the Beat Charlie Challenge. I haven't actually seen these numbers yet, so I'm going to learn about them live on the air. How did I do? Let me start with that. How did I do?
Yeah, of course. We got to start at the Beat Charlie Challenge, right? Like that's where we got to start.
Fading
Charlie,
UBC had to be good for me.
It was. Charlie, you finished with 20 points. That puts you in the 83rd percentile. So 47 of the nearly 300 entries outscored you, and that's pretty good. Your all-time low was Club 2023. So you're coming off of your worst ever performance and a nice bounce back performance for you to get up to the 83rd percentile, which is pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, you scored higher in the women's division with 11 points and 9 in the men's division, but your men's division was higher than the average by more. Had a bigger delta from the average. So the men's division is actually where you picked up the bigger advantage, I would say, because
points.
you had Cal Poly Slow in the final.
Yeah, me rolling with Georgia though, that hurt me. If I hadn't done that, I think I would have probably done quite a bit better. There's no way I was going to predict Brown winning this tournament. I can't even go back in time and say that I would have done that. That just was never in the radar for me.
Yeah, and you know, like you mentioned in the women's division, fading UBC helped you, but you also had Vermont winning it. So that didn't help you in that front. Just 2.9% of entries had Stanford go into the final. So that would have been where the money is getting there, because nobody was on Stanford. And
any other notable
in the men's
stats?
division, 12.3%. Brown getting to the semis, and 4.3% of entries took Brown to win. So there were a few. And the other interesting thing was the gigantic public fade on Colorado. Colorado reaching the semifinals in both divisions. A little more expected in the women's division, but still they were trailing behind, you know, kind of the big three of UBC, Vermont, and UNC. And the men's division, only 16%, about 70% of entries had Colorado to semis, which is interesting because everybody was like all over UMass and Georgia. Neither of them make it. Colorado makes it instead. And so that you got some points picking Minnesota. You had Minnesota making quarters. That helped you. But you did pretty solid.
I'll take it. If I can be in the top 20%, I feel like that's pretty good. I will note, college 2021, I almost won. I was 97th percentile.
I will be impressed if you ever beat that number. I mean, that was very, very good.
That's someday I'm going to win the whole thing. It's going to be incredibly satisfying. Right now, Keith, I am on an unbelievable hot streak in disc golf predictions. I've correctly predicted the winners of 4 straight disc golf pro tour events. It's getting a little freaky. Like my player that I picked this weekend to win in the men's division, Nicholas Antila, he's Finnish. He was behind by like 4 or 5 strokes going into the final round. Caught insane fire and came back to win the whole thing to keep my streak alive.
Charlie's blessing right now. Yeah.
Anyway, hashtag the game. How did this go?
Well, so we changed it up in the game this year, and I feel pretty good about where it went. Congratulations to Bob C, who placed first with both champions, even though Brown not a popular pick. Just 19% of entries, was 4th in the men's division, and avoided the 2 biggest ones to avoid in the men's division. UAH, the most popular team, 0 points from them. 41% pick rate, no points. That's tough. And Carleton was the other big landmine, which some of us like me stepped on. No points from them. So Bob got most of the perfect group this year, which was UNC for $5, Brown for $4, Slow for $4, Binghamton for $1. You get your pair of wins for Bing.
Oh, Binghamton, $1. Such a great value pick right there.
Yep. And then Minnesota, the $3 pick to round it out, making it to quarterfinals. So that was your best scoring possible group. And otherwise, Carleton very popular in the men's division. Obviously, things didn't work out there. The big three really popular in the women's division. But I think we saw more spread out picks, which was good. The threshold for the bonus was a little low this year.
I mean, I think it makes sense too, because there were just more contending teams this year. And I think you see that in the results of the season. I mean, a point or two goes different for the UNC women, and they are not the champions this year. Like, it's not like it was some kind of beatdown situation. I think if you run the tournament again and it's still sunny conditions the whole time, does Brown win? I think there's a lot of things played into how this year played out, and it was not like there was just any single team that was super dominant, and it makes for great fun.
Yeah, I think this year's game worked out pretty well. I'll note that we also did fantasy this year, which is run by AK. Shout out to AK. Thanks for helping run that fantasy game for us. And because of the way the scoring system works out, you get a 5x bonus if you're the only person to pick a player. And so picking the 5x's was super helpful. You really needed to nail the 5x's, like Faye Burdick, who put up 2,000 points with the bonuses, or Cal Nightingale. You really needed to have some of those players on your roster. We're probably going to change the scoring system so it's a little less about the meta, finding the people nobody else picked to put up a bunch of numbers. But we'll twist it around a little bit next year. But for those of you who played, and I love that the person who placed first, Henry Lazard from NC State, picked himself, put up numbers. I love that. So
they always say to bet on yourself.
And my man's did it and took down the dub in the men's division. So good on him.
That's awesome. Well, he also got the nice bonus of picking his teammate Sean Wiles, who was the only person to pick him. So he got the 5x bonus, which was the third biggest point scorer then in the division because of that 5x bonus. So worked out real good. Yep. Love it. All right. Well, a lot of fun. Hope to keep. If you didn't play this year, you gotta get back in it for. We got to do something for Worlds, and then Club Nationals.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm going to spin up for Worlds. Maybe we'll just run the
overall country thing.
Oh,
we should have some kind of thing. I hadn't
thought about that.
And like, you can't pick the U.S. or something. I don't know. Let's think about it.
Maybe we could run the game for Worlds, but you're buying the whole group. Like, what do you price the U.S. at?
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll stay on college. The awards season is in full swing. We've announced breakout players, defensive player of the year, offensive player of the year, second team All-Americans. Keith, I don't know, do you want to just run us down the list of all of our award winners at the top end and give some flowers out?
Yeah, I mean, I love award season. I love the chance to go back and recognize, the best players in the division and kind of sing their praises. It's a fun time in the office. As usual, it was incredibly difficult to vote for this year's awards. There were some contentious opinions across the staff, but I thought it made for great fun in our office and some good award winners. So I'll start in the women's division. We went over our All-Americans and, of course, our player of the year, Dawn Colton. Offensive player of the year, Jolie Krebs, Kennedy McCarthy, and Madison Ong were the runners-up. Defensive player of the year, Eddie Lamb, Tori Gray, and Abby Galach are the runners-up there. Breakout players of the year, Faye Burdick, Audrey Parrott, and Calliope Cutchins are the runners-up in that category. And the other awards are still to come out. They'll probably be out after the show. But the Rookie of the Year race, very hot in the women's division. So I'll be curious to see how people react to that. You know what? I'll give you a little preview. Top 3, and I won't give you the order. I'll give you the alphabetical order for our listeners. Harper Bear, Chagall Gelfand, and Grace Maroon are your top 3. What order? You gotta stay tuned to the site to find out.
It's hard. That's a hard decision to make. Voters had a difficult job in front of them for sure. Shout out to
there are people off the podium who worthy of votes in that category.
Yeah. Shout out to the second team All-Americans in D1 men's: Tobias Brooks, Calvin Brown, Dexter Clyburn, Mike Glass, Wyatt Kellman, Paul Krennick, and Adam Miller. And on the women's side, it was Anna Gadu, Mika Kurahashi, Eddie Lamb, Kat McGuire, Maddie Ong, Trout Waybright, and Teresa Yu. This was tough too this year. The third teams are stacked.
Oh gosh, it was so hard this year. Every year we say this, the staff's like, oh, this exercise is so hard. And this year the subscribers got to get in on it. I haven't published the subscriber teams yet, but that's coming. So now people get to experience how difficult it is to like really pick out your top 14 and look at the players that you're cutting off and be like, wow, these are really good players. How am I not finding space for them? I have my snubs. I'm looking forward to writing about them in the snubs article that'll come out next week too. Men's division awards winners: O-Pody, Paul Krennick, with runners-up Aiden Downey and Anton Norm. D-Pody, Zeke Thorson from Colorado. Cal Poly Slows, Max Gade, and Calvin Stoughton from Colorado as the runners-up in that category. B-Pody, Aaron Kaplan from Oregon. Scotty Whitley and Michael Poe, pair of Southeast guys, take
Whitley robbed, bro. Whitley was my guy. I've heard the takes. Look, if it stopped in the regular season, I think I would have gone with Whitley too. But Aaron Kaplan was like that at Nationals, man. He was very, very good. And maybe even unanimous winner in that category, which goes to show how good he was, even though we all felt pretty strongly about Whitley. And the other awards still to come. So like in the women's division, I'll give you your top 3 rookie of the year. I don't think you'll have a hard time figuring out which one was first. So in alphabetical order, Raekwon Atkins, Tobias Brooks, and Ethan Lyman. Yeah, I think Toby's going to win it, Keith. Turns out if you get an All-American selection as a rookie, you're probably going to win it. All right. Awesome stuff. Looking forward to seeing what happens there. And Coach of the Year also about to come out. Do we have we're going to give the top 3s out here?
Do you want me? I can lay out the top 3s for the audience.
Let's do it. But
all right.
Give a reward to the live
in the men's division right in the alphabetical order of their universities. The coaching staffs from Brown, Georgia, and NC State are your top 3.
Okay.
And in the women's division, it's how do I want to do this one? Okay, we'll say North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Stanford. I was trying to decide if I would order them as UNC and UPenn or not, but we'll go North Carolina, Penn, and Stanford are your top 3.
Got it.
I think you can't get the Stanford staff off stadium,
Death taxes and Stanford coaches on the podium. I think I'm starting to feel that way about Brown men's too.
Wow.
The coaching is really, really good up there. I mean, look at this team. They have a whole new set of players, and 5 years removed from their last championship, they win another championship. Are you serious? And it's not like they have like the most amazing recruiting classes of all time, like Carleton. Yes, they have a couple really good players, but you shouldn't be able to win a title with 2 amazing players. But they managed to get it done twice. Coaching,
when Robin Davis leaves, we just need to probably just name the award after the Robin Davis Award. I used to joke about that in the NHL for defensemen, that you could just change it to the Nick Lidstrom Award, and he could actually just win his own award because the guy was like always at the top of the heap. But when Robin leaves, we could just call it the Robin Davis Coach of the Year Award.
All right, it is time to talk PUL Championship weekend. It starts on Saturday. Let's take a look at the schedule right now. We got a couple of very interesting matchups. Keith, I mean, Austin Torch shock the Radiants. They get in. They're playing New York. That's the first game Saturday. It's going to be record highs in Philadelphia, so teams better be ready for the heat. It's going to be 97, I think, on Sunday and a couple degrees cooler on Saturday. We've got gridlock in Austin, and then we've got Shadow versus Philly at 7 p.m. in the nightcap. I'm imagining we're going to have a fat crowd. Hopefully there's not too many storms. I feel like we could see a 1,000+ person turnout for this. I mean, not only is it in Philly, but they're playing DC on a Saturday night on a hot summer day. Come out, have a hot dog and a beer. That sounds like a great time. So Keith, let's break it down. Gridlock Torch. Does the Torch have a chance?
I'm sorry, you cut out a little bit earlier, so I missed you. Is this a typo? Where's Raleigh? Did we get the right graphic? Aiden's actually producing the show this week. Aiden, did we pull the right graphic? Can we get the one with Raleigh on it? The team I picked to win the league? Did we?
Tough scene, no? Keith.
Okay. Yeah, tough scene. I'll tell you what. To tell you who's excited to have the Heat coming with them, Austin, because it helped them in Raleigh, right? They're like, we were born in this heat. This is what we were built for. So maybe if you want to find your narrative edge for Austin, it's got to be that, right? Otherwise, I mean, look, the magic is great. We love that they pulled off what felt like a miracle. Nobody picked them. We picked against them. They put it in our face. I'm here for it. But the record just doesn't really support picking them in this game. The results it's hard for me to get behind that. Hide picking them against New York.
Yeah, I think the hope for them is that the gridlock is like missing a couple players or something. But I think if New York brings their whole team, they roll in this game. I mean, what's the spread? It's like New York -6.5, something like that. Maybe I take Austin on that line, but just considering the conditions. But I think this should be a pretty straightforward victory for New York. They got to love their path here.
Yeah. I mean, this definitely feels like it. I'm sure they're glad to not see Raleigh on the other side. New York has really come on strong. I think the Philly game was kind of their big coming out party. But Torch are a tough, gritty team. That's how they got Raleigh. I think is they really outgritted them. So if they can make this game ugly, that's maybe the path for them. But making it ugly against Cartagena and Jolie and the Cardenases is really hard. It's really hard to get them to play ugly ultimate. It's just not their you don't get dictated that way. So I'm certainly gonna end up picking New York. I'll be surprised if you end up anywhere else.
How about this? The Austin Torch did a GoFundMe to pay for this trip because the league doesn't pay for this. So think about this: you make the playoffs, right? You make championship weekend, and then you have to go and buy all these plane tickets to go to the game. It makes no sense. Like there's a negative incentive for making the playoffs right now in the PUL. Everybody else gets to drive, right? Gridlock, Shadow, Surge. It's like a 2-hour drive for everybody else. Austin's got to fly across the country. So they did a $15,000 fundraiser. They got it. It's done. They have $15,720. I just checked it. How about that?
Sick. Great to see these people coming out and supporting the Torch. They're a hardworking org, and money's tight, especially when you're a billion miles away from the rest of the league.
Yeah. Interesting things to consider for the PUL in the future, but ultimately, hey, look, Austin's got nothing to lose. They're going to play without pressure. Sure, they're the underdog, but they were the underdog against Raleigh too. And they won that game. Do I think that they win this game? No, but New York could get tight if things go the wrong way at the beginning of that game.
I mean, you'd love to say that like New York has postseason experience to lean on, but like it's basically a whole new team. So they don't really.
Right. How about the other game? DC Philly. DC has looked unbeatable. Philly looked unbeatable for a while until they played New York at New York and looked suddenly very beatable. How much of a chance do you give this Surge team of, get the home crowd? They sleep in their own beds. Do they they're going to win this game?
Charlie, I got a bonus trivia question for you.
All right.
How many teams in the Premier Ultimate League have fewer goals scored than DC has breaks?
Oh my God. 2 teams.
It is 4 teams. The DC D-line has outscored 4 other Premier Ultimate League teams, including Austin.
On the season?
This season.
Oh my God.
Which is some wild
no
stuff.
Way.
I mean, they're always out on defense, so I guess the D-line gets a lot of reps. But they've, according to the PUL Stats Hub,
crazy.
They have 76 breaks this year. Nashville and Austin have 74, and Milwaukee and Atlanta each have 66 total goals.
Wow.
I mean, DC has been taking names all year. This was like, I have trouble constructing. I know Philly's good. I think that we probably overemphasized how they played in one road game in New York. But this DC team has been a buzzsaw. I mean, have they how many minutes of this season have they even been like within 2 or 3 goals of the opposition?
I mean,
maybe you go with the like
75.
They haven't. Maybe you go with the like they haven't been punched in the mouth kind of thing. So like if Philly could come out and like they're up 1 at the half or something, or they go up 3-0, like does DC know what to do? I cannot fade this DC team the way they look right now. I got to take DC to beat Philly.
I do too. I mean, look at these results. 23-5 over Nashville, 13-7 over Raleigh, 21-5 over Austin, 16-5 over Raleigh, 16-5 over Raleigh, 17-10 over Portland, and 26-9 over Atlanta. They're playing another game. It's like when Revo was in the league. So let's look ahead. I think it's very likely we're going to see DC New York in the final. New York has definitely been a lot better than I expected, but I have to say, I think this is where their luck runs out. I don't think they have the depth to beat this DC team. Now, maybe the Cardenas sisters are going to say something about that, but I just think that, like, in the conditions, it's just going to be too hard for New York to keep up with the wave after wave of DC defenders. New York is a good team, but they're pretty top heavy. They're a plus 38 on the season in admittedly definitely a tougher division. But I think DC is a cut above, and probably it's DC minus 3.5 spread in the final. And I probably take the Shadow to cover.
And I think that DC is probably the best suited team to match up with New York. I mean, you're talking about Cammie Groom and Ashley Gentilette and Allie Wallace. Like they've got good defenders. It's hard to like exactly know what their D-line is because they played defense so much this year. Like what would happen if they were an actual like OD kind of matchup. But you do know that they have great defenders. And generally are probably pretty schematically sound. Maybe that stuff hasn't been tested enough this year, but I do think they're going to be in a good position to at least challenge this, New York dominator style offense where they're going to, pitch back and forth, run some give and goes, play a lot of short ball until they get something good going deep. I mean, that's kind of the recipe. I think this is not really a great matchup for New York. So I think DC probably stands a better chance of beating Philly stands a better chance of beating DC than I think New York does. So I think I'm going to take DC and I would probably take them to cover too.
All right. So there's our picks. We're both taking DC over New York in the final, and the PUL Championship weekend starts 4:00 on Saturday. That's Eastern time. It'll be streamed live on the Premier Ultimate League YouTube channel. Looking forward to it. I think that's it for today's Deep Look. Oh no, I'm sorry. I almost forgot. We have the question of the week. This one comes from CJ Epps in the Discord. And CJ says, I love the idea on Pod Practice of doing a next-gen type tour up and down a coast in the U.S. as a way to get reps and fundraise. Seems like a great idea that should be really considered. A long weekend playing a game Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, for instance, while raising money would be a great idea, although logistics will be more complex, obviously. What do you think, Keith? There's not exactly a question here. It's more of a comment.
Yeah, but I thought it was actually an interesting conversation that was starting to blossom from this. Like, basically, if you took the U.S., we talked about this when we were talking about the expenses of the U.S. national team this year, right? Like, they travel to Europe for Windmill, they travel to Colombia for TEP. Like, these are these big international trips when most of the best competition they're going to find is here in the U.S. Like, if anybody shouldn't have to travel, you think it could be the U.S. national team and still get high quality reps. So could they do some sort of fundraising, in lieu of traveling to Europe, spend 5 days or whatever on the road here in the U.S. and play some showcase games in different cities. I think it's harder than it sounds to make all the logistics work. When you fly to another tournament and someone's organized all the stuff for you, you don't have to do the organization. But in this case, you got to find the venues. You got to get the opposition signed up. You got to promote the event. You got to do all that extra stuff. And that's all stuff that's put on USA Ultimate's staff and probably a little bit on the players from like a promotional standpoint and figuring out where you're going to stay and all these types of things. So I do think that there's a bit more logistical challenge. And I think that players would be less excited about doing this than traveling. I think part of the experience of being on the national team is getting to go somewhere with this team and have these unique experiences in new places, play new competition. I think people will be a little less excited to like go play the same club players you play all season and at nationals all the time. So I think the players themselves might be a little less thrilled, even though you're now getting the fundraising aspect. I mean, that's your big hook here, right? Is one, it hopefully costs less because you don't have to travel, but I'm not even sure that that's necessarily true because now you got to pay for the venues. And two, that you're actually able to fundraise by selling tickets and potentially like a streaming package or something like that. I just don't know that. I don't know that I quite see everything aligning in a way that the pros outweigh the cons here.
Yeah, I just feel like the next gen tour thing, right? You go back in time, like 13 years, I think. It was the perfect thing for the moment where like we were coming into a new era of Ultimate. The media era was just getting started in large part thanks to next gen and the next gen tour, right? Like that was like the first streaming of Ultimate. And there was no AUDL, there was no showcase games, there was just sort of club. That was it. So you get this collection of elite college players together and they play in streamed games against elite club teams. It felt like the first time we had showcase games. And now every weekend there are streamed games. And every tournament, there are multiple streamed games every round. I just don't know if it would have the same resonance and that you could get people as excited about coming out and going to one of those games. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just feel like there's a lot more noise now. And getting people to come out for a single showcase game is definitely a lot easier than getting them to come out for an entire season of games. But, would there be the same excitement for those kinds of next-gen style games these days? I don't know. I'm not sure that I would want to take the risk of organizing all of that unless you were somehow getting the stadiums for free. It just feels like a tough ask at this point. It made a lot of sense 15 years ago. And I don't deny that it would be really fun. I think it would be super fun to watch the top college players play against the top club teams. I think they'd be entertaining games. I think people would tune in. I just don't know if you could sell enough tickets to make it worth it. Because I don't think they really made enough money back in the day.
Yeah, otherwise they'd still be doing it. I mean, I think you make a great point about the media landscape too. Like if you want to see young star players playing right now, you have ample opportunity. Not only do you have a lot of their college games filmed, but a bunch of them play in multiple different semi-pro leagues that are around. Like you have chances to see your favorite players compete. and you didn't necessarily have that in the same way back in the Next Gen Tour era. I'd be curious. I mean, I will say that this idea generating on Prod Practice, where you do have players talking about what they would like to do, that does hold some weight for me. And although you don't always think all the way through what the actual implications are, I would be curious if our audience, the folks who are players and the subscribers, both, I'd be interested in both perspectives. Would you be into a Next Gen Tour, even if it wasn't the national team? If Ultiworld was like, hey, we're doing the Ultiworld Tour next year. The All America teams are traveling across country and playing against, local club teams. Would you be into that? Let us know. I'm go ahead, reply in the comments. Hit the like and subscribe while you're in there. Let us know if you think that would be cool. I would be curious what people think. If there was a lot of groundswell of interest, Charlie would probably do it.
You never know. Max Charles points out that Dig is playing a New England All-Star team in this kind of sort of one-off showcase game setting. So we're going to get a little market test.
I mean, I think that if people are going to that game, it's because they want to support somebody who, like, one of their teammates. Like, it's because you want to donate, not because you're like, oh, this is my one chance to see these Ultimate players play. Right. I think if people are going to go out there, it's because they want to donate to Dig and like do a fun thing, not
right.
Maybe that works for the U.S. national team fundraising.
Isn't that
for people want to donate?
Yeah, isn't that the same thing as like the showcase? I don't know. Before we go, we're throwing back to last week's question of the week, but I don't exactly know what that's about. So Keith, you're going to have to take over here.
Yes, so last week we talked about the like 30 for 30 topics.
Yes.
What will be the best 30 for 30 topic? And we got an interesting comment in the Discord from someone who says that they work in documentary film and TV. And so I thought this was an interesting reply to add perspective to what we had said. And so I'll read it. It comes from ZAKF. Maybe that's Zach F. If you weren't trying to attract non-fans, if your goal was not bringing in new fans, you're trying to make something cool for people who are already plugged in. For
existing market.
Okay. Or if Ultimate were really popular, the obvious answer would be to tell a team of a dynasty like Fury, Revolver, or to put someone notable in a chair and like look back at their career like Biodoc style. So you could do Bo Kittredge, as this person suggests, Alex Snyder, whatever. And if Ultimate were a big deal, you'd have a built-in audience and it would get greenlit immediately. There are great stories to tell, but is the audience there? Ultimate isn't big, so none of that works. There will never be a Netflix, Amazon, Hulu follow doc like Drive to Survive, which is something that we talked about, the F1 series. The meta for those things has shifted from sometimes entertaining niche sports to the NFL and NBA or bust, right? Like there's the QB show that Netflix did. They're doing an NBA version, and I think I just saw they're doing a wide receivers version. They're going to do receivers, and there's already an NBA show in the works following NBA players around. If it ever switches back to niche, then it favor environments that maximize human drama, like F1, where billionaires own teams. There's big time smack talking. You have epic spinettes, etc. The answer for something that gets out there and puts eyeballs on the sport would actually be some sort of scandal or true crime story. It's so wild that platforms can't say no. I don't think the texting scandal is going to do it here.
No,
if someone wants to take over the team,
Cultimate, like 6-part doc series, including the Skip Sewell, going to jail. Although he's out. Yes. I think I don't exactly know what the deal is, but he's done. It's over. He's not in prison anymore.
If someone wants to take over the team and use their Ultimate career or Ultimate team as a way to like rob a major American institution, then maybe that'll work. So if somebody wants to do that,
there's plenty of scandal from the Cultimate days.
Eat the rich,
plenty.
No, it's got to be something that's like people have to want to know. It has to be like so wild that the Ultimate part is just like a component. That the real juice is the scandal. It's got to be really crazy. The person suggests says think BS High. Charlie, have you seen BS High?
No.
Okay, so do you remember the fake football team, the fake high school football team that got on ESPN?
Yes.
And got absolutely clobbered? Bishop Sycamore.
Yes. I remember that.
They made a documentary. This documentary, I swear, is so good. If you like documentary filmmaking, BS High, the mastermind behind the fake high school, sits down, has an interview, and you can tell he thinks he's going to win you over. Like, this guy is a total con artist, and he's like, I'm going to talk my way through this. Like it's so great to watch somebody lie to your face. It's really incredible. It's a great documentary. It's a great sports documentary. It's sad. The people who were taken advantage of by this person, like, it's sad that happened. Very entertaining, very informative. I highly recommend BSI. I have to stump for that because nobody has seen this documentary. I think it's on HBO. I definitely recommend it.
AKA Max. AKA HBO Max. Yes. All right. That is going to do it for this edition of Deep Look. Thank you so much for tuning in. Club season right around the corner. I can't wait. We're like a little under a month from the Pro Elite Challenges, and looking forward to getting ready for this season. It's going to be a good one. For Keith Rayner, I'm Charlie Eisenman signing off for this week of Deep Look. We'll be back to break down PUL Championship weekend and more next week right here on Deep Look.
We're going to be talking about how did the Torch do it?
NBA Finals
PUL
were trash,
champions.
Garbage NBA Finals.
See y'all in sub bonus.